Let me guess. You made a promise to yourself, woke up early, had the plan ready, felt completely locked in. Day 1, flawless. Day 2, still going. Day 4, gone. And now you're here, watching another video, looking for the thing that finally makes it click. Here's the truth nobody in the self-improvement space is actually saying out loud. Your consistency isn't broken because of you, it's broken because of a system error you never knew existed. I'm going to show you exactly what that is and how to fix it permanently. You know what the most damaging part of this cycle actually is? It's not the missed days, it's the story you start telling yourself because of them. I always do this. I'm just not a disciplined person. Maybe this isn't for me. That internal voice, quiet, persistent, convincing, does more damage than any missed workout or skipped habit ever could. And the cruel irony, you started with more motivation than most people ever feel. The problem was never your drive. Research in behavioral psychology confirms it. Over 80% of people collapse within the first 2 weeks of a new habit. Not the lazy people, the motivated ones, the ones who genuinely tried. They were set up to fail by a framework that was broken from the start. You weren't lacking willpower, you were missing the right system entirely. So if it's not about willpower, what is actually breaking your consistency? The answer comes from a culture that figured this out centuries ago. While the Western world built an entire industry around hustle, grind, and just push through it, Japan quietly took a completely different path. Not louder motivation, not harder effort, not more willpower. A fundamentally different understanding of how human beings actually change. Japan engineered this across centuries of philosophy, workplace design, and daily ritual into 2 core principles most of the world has never heard of. Kaizen, tiny, consistent improvement so small your brain never resists it, and Jiko-Konri, self-management built not on discipline, but on intelligent design. This is the framework, and it starts with understanding the one thing silently destroying your consistency every single time. Here's what's happening inside your brain when you try to build a new habit. Your brain runs a continuous background check, not on whether the habit is useful, but on whether it matches the person it believes you to be. Neuroscientists call this identity congruence processing. When a behavior conflicts with your existing self-concept, your brain generates resistance. Not laziness, but biological, automatic, invisible resistance. James Clear identified the same mechanism from the behavioral side. Real habit change begins at the identity level, not the action level. And centuries before the science existed, Japanese philosophy already had a word for the solution: self-concept alignment, the practice of becoming the person first. Now that you understand why this happens, here's the exact 3-part Japanese system to permanently fix it. Most people approach consistency with one layer: effort. They try harder, fail, then try harder again. But the system I'm about to walk you through has 3 layers, and effort isn't one of them. Layer 1, Kaizen. Not more action, smaller action, strategic action. Layer 2, Jiko-Konri. Not more willpower, better environment, smarter design. Layer 3, identity reconstruction. Not more motivation, a different self-image, a permanent one. Same goal, completely different architecture. This is the difference between the people who keep restarting and the people who never need to. Let's start with layer 1, because this one completely changes how you think about starting. Picture 2 people with the same goal: build a consistent reading habit. Person A decides to read 30 minutes every morning. Day 1, perfect. Day 3, they're tired. Skip once, guilt arrives, the restart loop begins. By day 10, the book is face down on the nightstand, untouched. Person B decides to read 2 pages, just 2, every single day, no matter what. Day 1, 2 pages. Day 3, tired, but 2 pages takes 90 seconds, done. Day 10, automatic. Day 30, they're reading for 20 minutes without even deciding to. Same desire, completely different architecture. This is Kaizen in action. The science behind it is precise. Your amygdala, the brain's threat detection center, flags large behavioral shifts as dangerous and generates automatic avoidance. 2 pages doesn't register as a threat, 30 minutes does. And once person B starts, the Zeigarnik effect takes over. The brain, having begun, generates its own drive to continue. 2 pages become 5, 5 become 20, not through force, but through neurological momentum. Person A tried to win through willpower. Person B won through design. But starting small only works if your environment isn't working against you, and that's where layer 2 comes in. There are 2 types of people trying to build better habits: the fighter and the designer. The fighter relies on willpower, waking up every morning, battling themselves into doing the right thing. Exhausting, unsustainable, temporary. The designer relies on environment, building a life where the right behavior costs less effort than the wrong one. Effortless in appearance, permanent in result. Jiko Conry is the philosophy of the designer, and it works on one unbreakable truth. You will always take the path of least resistance. The only question is whether you've designed that path to lead somewhere worth going. 3 principles make this work. Friction reduction. Remove every barrier between you and your target habit. Distance equals resistance. Eliminate the distance. Temptation bundling. Your brain resists hard things and seeks enjoyable ones, so stop fighting that and bundle them together. And visual cueing. Place physical triggers inside your field of vision because your eyes are constantly scanning for behavioral cues. You don't need more discipline, you need better architecture. The fighter burns out, the designer compounds. But environment only gets you started. The final layer makes consistency permanent, and it lives entirely in your identity. We've talked about starting small and designing your environment, but both of those are tools, and tools only work as long as someone picks them up. Layer 3 is about becoming the kind of person who always picks them up. This is the deepest truth in the system. You do not build consistency through repetition alone. You build it through identity reconstruction, through the slow, deliberate, evidence-based process of becoming someone for whom the behavior is not a habit, but an expression. Japanese philosophy calls this ikigai alignment, the state where what you do and who you are exist in such complete coherence that inconsistency feels like a betrayal of self. James Clear's research points to the same destination. Identity-based habits are the only habits that survive real life, because eventually they're not habits anymore. Their personality. 3 moves to begin right now. Say, I am someone who, and fill that blank with the person you're becoming, not the person you wish you were. Treat every small win as evidence, not achievement, because your brain updates its self-model on data. And stop asking, did I do it today? Start asking, am I becoming them? Because the most consistent person you've ever admired doesn't wake up and choose discipline every morning. They wake up and choose themselves. Now imagine what your life looks like when all 3 of these layers work together. Remember how this started? Day 1 energy collapsing into day 4 silence, the restart loop, the voice whispering, maybe you're just not built for this. Now picture 90 days from now, same person, completely different experience. You wake up and the habits are already in motion, not because you forced yourself, but because the system is running and you're simply living inside it. Focus feels easier. Energy feels reliable. The feeling of falling behind is replaced by something quieter and more powerful, the feeling of compounding forward. You're not performing discipline anymore. You are disciplined because somewhere in those 90 days, the behavior and identity finally caught up to each other. This isn't fantasy. This is what happens when your system matches your identity. But visualization without action is just daydreaming. So here's what I want you to do in the next 24 hours. Pick the habit you've restarted the most and shrink it to its absolute minimum. 2 minutes, 5 reps, 1 page, and do it today, not as a habit, but as a declaration. Then look at your environment and make one change that removes friction or adds a visual cue. Move one thing before this video ends. Finally, write this somewhere you'll see it again. I am someone who... Make it specific, make it present tense, make it true in the direction you're heading. 3 votes, 3 layers activated. This isn't about perfection. It's about casting enough votes that 90 days from now, the identity becomes undeniable, even to yourself. The people who cast their first vote today are already different from the people who saved this for later. Think back to how this video started. Day 1 collapsing into day 4, that voice telling you maybe you're not built for this. Now hold what you know right now. Kaizen, the start, was never too small. It was too large. Jiko Conry, the problem was never your willpower, it was your environment. Identity reconstruction, the habit was never the destination, the person was. 3 insights, 1 complete shift. You were never broken. You were never lazy. You were never someone who just couldn't do it. You were someone who deserved a better system and never got one. Until now. Subscribe if you want to go deeper. Every week, 1 Japanese performance system, 1 psychological framework, 1 insight the most consistently excellent people in the world already know, simplified and ready to use. Next week, the Japanese concept of Kaizen applied to identity and why the people who change fastest aren't the most motivated, but the most strategic. You've spent long enough restarting. This is day 1 of something that actually lasts.